So I'm going to ask you one final question. So we have a baptism today. We have two wonderful young people who are, making this decision. And based on your personal journey and your experience and your relationship with God, what advice would you give them? Yeah.
Oh, it's always and only your journey. You have to just remember that it's your journey, because everyone will come up with something to say or have their own opinion or how you should do it or how you should be or, and really just remember that it's always just you and God.
Thank you for joining us this morning, for just trying something different and having a conversation together. Are you getting poked in the back of the head by that plant? See, you got to start somewhere. There's always a pilot. This is the pilot episode. Bear with us. But it looks great. Thank you to the team who have set it up for us this morning. And, let's dive into this. So we surprised Amanda with those videos. She didn't know that they were coming. So I did forget the Kleenex up here, but, first impressions, how did it feel seeing people who are important to you just share their heart towards you this morning?
Wow. Well, I'm moved by it. Like, I wasn't expecting it. I do know how they feel about me. However, when they proclaim it and then they show it in front of my entire church, and I sent this link to a couple people this morning for the live so that hopefully they're watching. But it's like, you don't really know how much people really care or how important you are to their lives. So it was extremely moving. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, I think sometimes, we all have our different love languages, but I'm a firm believer that we all need a little bit of all of the love languages, not just one or two, give us all of them. And I think words of affirmation are really important. I think stories are really important. I think we don't take enough time to tell each other how we feel about each other, I don't know everyone in this room, but I love most of you. I love you even if I haven't met you. I think you're all fantastic. I see smiling faces, And I think part of the purpose of wanting to sit down and have these conversations is, how do you grow closer to people? It's having conversation, and very often we're running into church and we're like, hi, and we're running to class or we're running to serve in some capacity, and then those moments just to sit down and be like, hi, who are you? What are you about? They don't come about as often maybe as we would like to. I'm sure maybe the introverts are kind of glad for that, but it's okay. We're coming for you too. So, Amanda, I know there are many people here who maybe do know you, but I'm sure there's many who don't. Do you mind just sharing a little about yourself, just so everyone has a general understanding of, who are you?
Yeah, absolutely. And also just want to share, Kerhys and I, when we talk about getting to know people, I've been at this church, coming every Saturday for over a year now. And Kerhys and I have actually spent time together twice. So it takes time. Even though we want to spend lots of time with each other, life gets busy. So I think taking the time to do that with people in your church, in your friends, it matters. So thank you for having me on here today. And we thought it would be fun. We did... Is that why?
Hold it closer, yeah.
Why is making that noise?
Yeah.
I don't know these things. Okay, great. I'm like, why is it making this noise? Okay. So I think it's fun that we did sit on her couch and actually have a similar conversation, just kind of what we're going to talk about today. But you know what? I love the setup. So thank you, Robert and Rhoda, for making it like a little talk show. We love it. And, so who am I? So I'm Amanda. And I think it's important to tell me so I'm 43, just so you know how old I am, because part of this story is my journey with Jesus, which really, in my eyes, didn't start until probably about 5 years ago. And, so I come from Toronto originally. I've born and raised there, and I've been here for 2 years now in Vancouver. And, some fun facts. Some of you met her. She was here 2 weeks ago for Thanksgiving, my twin sister. So I'm identical twin sister. So that's someone who's super important to me. And I have a large family.
Double trouble.
What?
Double trouble.
Double trouble, yes. If you met us, some of you talked to her like she was me, and she's not. Okay. But yeah, that's how much we're alike. And my family came to visit for Thanksgiving, and they got to come to this church. And something else to share, which is that my dad came to the church for Thanksgiving, and he wasn't at my baptism or my sister's. And I don't know the last time he was in a church. He came here and he sat through the whole service.
Came for the two of you.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. I feel like, especially, and we're going to get into it a little more, but I think
we needed the tissue box.
We did need the tissue box. Like, just if anyone, feel free to run up with some Kleenex, please, and thank you. But I feel like when you're born and raised in the church, you're kind of surrounded in church community and you're sort of used to having everyone there. It's okay, Robert, come on up. Thank you. It's okay. As long as we're crying one at a time and not in tandem, we should be fine. We'll get through this. But I think, you're used to having people in community with you. Whereas I think, my perspective, because I am someone who was born and raised in the church, when you're coming in, there are people who maybe don't understand your journey, who haven't, maybe it's something different to see you doing, and it takes time. So I think I hear what you say, like that must have been just such a beautiful thing to have your dad and your twinny in church with you and just like celebrating Thanksgiving.
It was like, that's the only time it's ever happened.
Wow.
And
it happened at OAC.
Which is really cool because, this is my church, and then to be able to have them come here. And I was excited that they wanted to come, but I left it open. Like I said, okay, well, this is our plan. And then my sister knows, I just treaded lightly, and we said we're going for breakfast. And then we came here, and it just kept everything like flowing. And at any moment, if he wanted to leave, I knew that might happen. And it was okay if he did, because I was okay with that.
Uh-huh.
But the fact that he stayed was truly a blessing.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
And just sort of like it's being embraced, so let's go back a little bit. Like, take us back to, your faith journey. Like, how would you describe it? How would you describe your journey to faith? Like, are we talking roller coaster? Are we talking a nice and steady jog? Are we talking kind of sliding down a ski slope out of control? Like, how was your journey?
Well, I don't have anything to compare it to. And one thing I'm going to say is, like, this journey and your journey is never to be compared to someone else's. Definitely not. I didn't have someone to follow necessarily. Like, my grandparents my dad's side are Italian. And you remember getting dressed up as a little girl in like little white
Sunday best.
Yeah. Little cute. Imagine both of us in the same little cute white dress with a little white purse. I'm pretty sure I have it. We'd have the little coins in to put in the basket with a little folded tissue. And so, like, that's my memory of going to church. And that is it. And then, fast forward many years. That's why I told you my age, is because, like, one of our circle of friends knew a pastor, and his name is Pastor Ralston. And he came into our lives, and he always opened it. Like, if you want to learn about the Bible, let us know.
And when you say it, like, just let me dig into this a little. So when you say, like, this pastor came into your lives, like, were you, like, did you have friends part of a small group? Was this, like, just some random person who happened to be a pastor? Like,
well, yeah. So one of my really good friends of over 20 years, she met him, and through through friends. Mm-hmm. And so, there's no coincidences. And, he showed up in our lives, and he came to everything. Every time we had a barbecue, every time we had people over at the house, and she always had people over, like, he was always there. And he was, I think he's 70 now, 70-ish. a 6'4" Jamaican, and always dressed in a suit. And his favorite thing was going roller skating. So I've been roller skating with him in his suit. And you just imagine. And then you turn around and like, I introduce him. His name is Pastor to me. I don't call him anything but that. So everyone, I'm like, this is my pastor. This is my pastor. This is my, and he just was always at everything. And
socializing with the group.
Everything.
Present.
Always at every birthday, like over many, many years. And then finally, and I'm vegan for those who don't know. But it's, he's always, would joke around with me about the Bible, because the Bible, this shows us how we can eat and what our diet, how they ate. And I would always say, well, mostly those things are plants. So how I eat is okay. And the thing about this is, how I end up here today is he's Adventist. And I mean, my grandparents were Catholic. My mother was Anglican. No one went to church. I was never baptized. And I didn't really know. I always joked around that I knew that Noah's Ark was built, but I didn't know why until I started reading the Bible. Like no one didn't even know. I had no idea.
So sometimes, like when there are sermons or people are talking about certain Bible stories, are there some things that are just going over your head? Like, what story? What happened?
No, I knew nothing. I just knew that you see pictures like the ark and little animals, and it's like big, this wood thing, and I was like, okay, well, that's cool. Like I don't know about it. I just and I always say whatever floats your boat doesn't need to float mine; it can float yours. So I was never like opposed to it. I didn't actually know, and I never had anyone show me. When I think you're ready for certain things in life, and sometimes you might be shown many times, or there might be an opportunity. Maybe I probably don't even remember.
So was there, say, a light bulb moment for you, or was it just a very organic?
No, it was really organic. I thought, what I learned, I love personal development. I've done 10 years with one company on personal development, and I did 4 years with emotional intelligence. And I was like, well, what else? Like, this is like, I could take this as just actually like I could learn something new. And why would I not? Why I hardly ever say no to any, like I'm very open, as you heard in the video. I'm a very open-minded person. So it's like, okay, let me learn about the Bible. So I started doing Bible study in person with my pastor once a week. And even through COVID, we did Bible study. I traveled. I still made the phone calls. We still have the phone call every week. I do Bible study with him from Toronto. And 2 years ago, he said, well, actually, I think it was supposed to be 3, but the first year, I don't think it worked, and it didn't work. It just, the timing, and there was no, I don't know, for me, there wasn't a demand for me to do it. I guess nothing about it, but
it just wasn't the time.
It wasn't the time. And then the next year, he's like, okay, well, I really think that you should get baptized. And
and mentally, like you were already there, you were like Team Jesus.
Oh, no.
Okay.
No, you would probably even know I wasn't even doing Bible school. I didn't go to church. I just did my study with him. Mm-hmm. And, I would recommend him. And sometimes we do group study, but normally it would just be me and him. And I learned about the Bible. And then, he's like, this Saturday I'm having a baptism with 2 people I knew. And he said that he expected me to be there. And I said, okay, well, I don't know yet. And this was like Wednesday. So, and those don't know me, I'm very logical. I'm just a logical person. If it makes sense, then like, why not? And I didn't quite understand like getting baptized yet. Like I didn't quite get the process. And so this isn't how and why I got baptized. So, everyone knows how to drive a car or may know how to drive a car, but doesn't have their license. Very easy, right? Fair?
Anyone? You'll identify with that, yeah. Okay. Wave the hands, yes, you're nodding.
Yeah. Okay. It's like, we're on TV. Okay, so then, and then my sister said to me, well, people know how to drive a car, but they might not have their license. Okay, fair. That's true, because I knew how to drive a car before I had my license. And then I got my license, and I could buy a car, and I got a card, with my light driver's license, and then I was able to rent a car. I could drive someone else's car, and I legally was out. And the experience of driving is different. You have to take a test. You have to know more. There's actually, okay? And so she's like, well, it's like getting baptized. And she's not baptized either at that point.
But she's advising you.
Yes.
I love
yeah,
that.
when she knows how my brain works. So she was like, this is, and I was like, okay, well, that actually makes sense. This makes sense. Like, that would be the next step to getting baptized. Is to get baptized. And the next step of this, because if it's something I'm interested in and I want to experience it entirely, then I should get baptized. And I was like, okay. So I call my pastor and I say, okay, I'll be there on Saturday. And then,
I love that.
Yeah.
It's so different, I think, from many of the experiences that maybe other people in this community have experienced. Sometimes if you've grown in the church, it's sort of like at a certain age, it's like, maybe you're in Pathfinders and you're in Sabbath school all the time. And it's like, now it's time to get baptized, or, there's these different highlights in life, I think. And so it's so interesting to hear it come from such a, like, it feels so human and just so logical. Like, it's like, yeah, get your license, get your license, get in the car and start driving,
And, one thing I'd liked, I got baptized in my best friend's backyard in her in-ground pool. So it was also very, I would say, unconventional if compared to what we're going to see today. And I also thought, though, for me, I felt it was fitting. I was surrounded by my actually, I didn't even invite anybody. My sister invited everyone for me because it was for me. And that's the baptism. She's like, oh, well, don't you want to share it with somebody? And I did invite two people. One, which is one thing you never realize why people come into your life. And I met this woman, and her name's Susie, and she's Seventh-day Adventist. And I met her, and I instantly wanted to be her friend. And this was probably like almost 10 years ago now. And I worked with her, so she needed Saturdays off and Friday night, and she went to church or whatever on Saturdays.
These like interesting things on a Friday and a Saturday, and it's like, what are you doing? Interesting, tell me.
And none of it made sense until I decided I wanted to get baptized. And the only person I knew that would really, really, really want to be there would be her.
So you invited her?
Yeah, that it was, and she actually knew my pastor. It was just amazing. Then I got to see how
this is coming together.
Yes, and then after I got baptized, I went to her church, and then her family already knew me, so I was automatically like, for me, I had a community in my church from the first day I went after I got baptized because I knew her. But I didn't know why. You don't know why you meet somebody that
I love your story and I love your journey, and I wish that we had, like, we're talkers. We could sit and talk all day.
How much time do you have?
I mean, we don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to ask you one final question. So we have a baptism today. We have two wonderful young people who are, making this decision. And based on your personal journey and your experience and your relationship with God, what advice would you give them? Yeah.
Oh, it's always and only your journey. You have to just remember that it's your journey, because everyone will come up with something to say or have their own opinion or how you should do it or how you should be or, and really just remember that it's always just you and God.
We're all individuals.
Yes,
it's sort of like,
it's a unique experience, and no journey is ever the same, and no experience is the same. And that don't let the outside world get in the way.
Like others, even within a community like this, we all love each other and support each other, but we have different experiences, different ideals. God speaks to us in different ways. So there's going to be some variance among us, but what unites us is loving God, serving God, doing life with Jesus. That's the unifier. I love what you shared this morning. I wish we had more time, but I just want to wrap this up by saying, Amanda, thank you so much for sharing a little bit of your journey with us. When we were preparing for this conversation, one of the questions I had asked Amanda was, what is something that you feel people assume about you? That maybe isn't quite correct. And I remember you said people assume that you're really unapproachable, and that could not be further from the truth. And so encourage all of you, like if you've taken time to chat with Amanda, super personable, like we can sit and talk for days, and you've always got such like a positive energy about you. You're always just ready to give people your time and your attention. And I love that about you. And so for anyone out there who's always seen Amanda running around and was thinking, you know, maybe you're like, oh, can I approach you? Are you approachable? She said herself, super friendly, super approachable, and encourage, you know, take the time to talk to Amanda today. Not everyone in one go. That could be incredibly overwhelming. Let's space it out. We've got weeks, you know, but also take the time to just connect to someone new. You know, if we want to get closer as a community, we have to talk, you know, and the talk has to be a little more than, hi, how are you? Good, thanks. Okay, bye. You know, and it can be vulnerable and it can be hard, but this is a great place to be, and I'm so glad that you chose to be here at OAC.
Thank you.
To share with us, and I hope that this series can bit by bit just share a little about us and bring us closer as a community. So thank you. Thank you guys for sharing this with us, and I'm going to hand back over to Pastor Rhoda.